Welcome to Gaga's Fiction. In part 2 of What If Naruto Ends Up with the Uchiha, we delve into the captivating world of Naruto x Mikoto. Let's uncover this incredible journey together. Sitting on the bed, he once again seemed to return to his old self. His body had regained its normal form, and the chakra was stable. It was as if two people inhabited this single being. The calm young man that everyone had known, and the beast they had just glimpsed in the arena. Nonetheless, Tsunade Senju was quite puzzled by the physical details of the case at hand. Initially, she thought Naruto's body would be in tatters due to the injuries and the dire consequences of his own jutsu. But it didn't look as severe as one might expect. Naruto, on the other hand, seemed oblivious to everything. He only allowed attention to stop the bleeding wounds and soothe the stinging skin. In the room, Kushina also stood about 4 meters from the bed. Her gestures conveyed a pain and concern that was hard to digest. It had been a fantastic fight, and Naruto's level had surprised everyone. But the consequences of what he had done were far from a happy ending. Minutes earlier, Kushina had implored Tsunade to tend to Naruto's wounds. The blonde-haired medic didn't object. It's what she had intended to do from the beginning. It was true that she didn't have a close relationship with the Namikaze family as she might with other families, but she knew they were important to Jiraiya. She had 2 seriously injured patients to attend to, a winner and a loser. But between the pathetic little Uchiha and Kushina's son and Jiraiya's student, there was no doubt about whom she should prioritize. "Your external wounds are not a problem," announced the medical Sanin, examining Naruto's young body with chakra. "I'm concerned about the negative effects of injecting so much chakra into your internal channels. I'm surprised you didn't burst." Naruto didn't respond, but if he had wanted to, he would have said that's why he had trained so hard in recent months. He had punished his own body, increasing his physical endurance to the point of madness. Not to be faster or stronger, but to better withstand the specific weight of overloading his system with natural energy. While he was sore, and he couldn't train for several days, the level of combat he had achieved was certainly satisfying. Tsunade wanted to talk to Naruto about an important matter. But with Kushina so nervous and waiting for favorable answers about the healing, it was best to leave it for another time. For now, she could only close the most severe wounds and help stabilize him. Although a personal feeling was growing within Tsunade Senju, she decided to leave it for further analysis on another occasion. So she finished applying bandages around Naruto's abdomen and chest, leaving mother and son alone and at ease. Speaking with Naruto would have to wait. She changed rooms and went to consultation room 14, where Jiraiya was waiting. The female Sanin had not thought it was so urgent to attend to her companion, but evidently, Naruto's blow had affected him in some way. She entered the room, and the white-haired man didn't have his usual carefree smile. He was very focused, just as when things were very bad and were going to get worse. He didn't pay much attention to Jiraiya's silence and began to examine his right hand, which had borne the brunt of Naruto's attack. Surprisingly, she noticed that 3 of the fingers on that hand were fractured. "That kid fractured several of your fingers with a single blow," she whispered in surprise while trying to adjust them with her chakra. It was as if. "I'm worried, Tsunade," said the white-haired man with a distant look but allowing himself to be treated passively. "I used natural energy in my arm to absorb Naruto's blow. I thought that if I opposed the same type of energy, it would nullify the greater effect of the blow." "You did," she pointed out. "It was only a few fingers, Jiraiya, and because he caught you in a bad defensive position." "It wasn't a bad defense. And it definitely wasn't just a few fingers, Tsunade," the Gamma Sani noted. "The brutality of that technique knows no bounds." She was about to ask why, but as she spread her chakra throughout Jiraiya's hand, she could see that his wrist was also broken. The elbow and even the shoulder were dislocated. 2 arm bones were broken, snapping like twigs. One blow, not even aimed at Jiraiya and reduced in effectiveness by the natural chakra defense. Yet, so powerful, so definitive. "It doesn't make sense," she indicated, smiling nervously. "It's insane. I can't even accumulate that much chakra in a single point. It's a force beyond reason." "To control Senjutsu," Jiraiya said gravely, "you have to be able to mix natural energy with your own. Just as the mind and body come together to create a technique, adding a third force increases not only the difficulty but the effect." "Is he stronger than me?" she asked softly. "And more resilient than Orochimaru when he used his jutsu," the Toad Sage added. "Plus, his mother is Uzumaki, so he has brutal chakra, nearly 200 times the norm. His power is greater, much more than mine." "I've seen you use Sage Mode, idiot," Tsunade smiled slightly to ease the tension. "That kid couldn't beat you even now." I have more experience, and many ninja in this village could defeat him if it were just about that, the white-haired man pointed out. But we only saw his technique unleashed for a few minutes. For every moment it remained active, Naruto didn't weaken, but the opposite. How far? Will he be able to go? The medic added. I wonder more if Naruto will be able to control that technique when it has been active for too long. He's improved too much, and I'm not just talking about his technique. Jiraiya's voice now had a hint of amusement. He's earned himself a delightful captive. Ju. You perverted idiot, Tsunade growled. You have no idea of the trouble that kid has caused by taking the woman of a clan head. I only know that a new Uchiha novel is about to come out. He smiled mischievously, unaware of his companion's bad mood. The Lady and the Beast, Prisoner of Passion. My godson is one lucky. And Lady Tsunade was a woman of extraordinary patience when attending to a wounded person. But with Jiraiya and his always lecherous comments, she couldn't help but bring out the worst in her. She gave him a tremendous blow to the head, shouting his name as if possessed. She could have hurt him even more if she didn't know he was injured. Tsunade-sama. Interrupted Tsunade's student, Shizune. I've finished the evaluations of. She observed as Jiraiya lay unconscious on the bed with a bump on his head. Has he hit Jiraiya-sama again? It was his fault for making me angry. The blonde shouted in annoyance. He always talks about his perverted books. They were like children, and Shizune just sighed in embarrassment. You could say that they had long ago moved past those who fight, love, but the Sannin didn't seem to change anymore. For the next few minutes, the brunette went into detail about all the analyses performed on Sasuke Uchiha. She had given her report to the Hokage 5 minutes ago and was now doing so with her sensei. The intensive care unit was crowded with doctors, nurses, and ninjas in general. In one part of the room, they attended to the Anbu who had tried to intervene in the fight between Sasuke and Naruto. These shinobi had fractures and bruises as if they had participated in a war. No one understood how a general chakra-powered strike could cause them so much harm. In a corner, Shizune and other kunoichi had provided urgent care for Uchiha Sasuke, monitored by his brother Itachi and his mother, Mikoto. After about 30 minutes of uncertainty, Shizune could declare to reassure everyone that Sasuke was stable and miraculously still had a chance to survive. 14 broken bones, she listed to the Hokage, Fugaku, and the rest of the aforementioned Uchiha, contusions, bruises, internal bleeding. He also has minor fractures and cracks all over his body. Honestly, he was one blow away from death. Minutes later, after Shizune had instructed the nurses on the ongoing care the patient required, she left Fugaku and his family alone with the defeated Sasuke. Mikoto knelt beside her son's bed, distressed by his dire health. Itachi and Fugaku discussed angrily in hushed whispers. The younger one reprimanded his father for the warnings he had tried to convey earlier, which had gone unheeded. I can't trust anyone to do their job, Fugaku grumbled. I'm surrounded by incompetence. Sasuke did what he could, Itachi pointed out, remaining neutral. But he wasn't prepared for someone like Naruto Namikaze. That idiot couldn't even carry out the simple task I assigned him. Now the village will see us as weak. It's inconceivable. How could he lose to Yondaime's son? Naruto's level has risen too much, Itachi admitted neutrally. Facing him head-on has become the equivalent of a bad strategy. While we all trained to increase our power, he relentlessly prepared day after day for one goal. To kill those who threatened his fiancée. I should have sent you instead of your useless brother. You shouldn't have underestimated Naruto Namikaze, Itachi admonished. Now you've awakened the worst in him, and his hatred is against us. Both men turned their gaze to the woman kneeling by the bed. The nurses left, leaving the Uchiha alone in the room. Usually, they would have expelled everyone from the room, leaving at most one relative of the injured person. But the 3 young nurses gazed carelessly into Itachi's eyes, and after that, they left the room under the command of the Sharingan. I still don't understand why he stopped, Fugaku pointed out. Sasuke's life was hanging by a thread. No one could intervene, although Minato tried. From my perspective, he took much more from that fight than he could have imagined. Itachi's last words made both men look at the only woman in the room. Mikoto had saved her son's life but had traded her own. Technically, the change was positive. If Naruto killed her, the Uchiha clan would lose nothing because Sasuke, once recovered, would be at the same level of military strength as before. Mikoto had been a kunoichi, but she had been retired for too long and no longer had any use for the clan. At almost 40 years old, she would not give the clan leader any more children, so she was to some extent expendable. Itachi, however, saw the other side of the matter. What if Naruto, instead of killing her, turned her into his slave? Perhaps a servant, to humiliate the Uchiha? Fugaku would be personally humiliated, and he might even end up dueling Naruto. Much more experienced, a warrior who had lived through previous wars. But could he contend with the irrational brutality of Naruto Namikaze? Maybe that was the plan from the beginning. Naruto wanted to take Fugaku and Sasuke to the battlefield directly. That's why he took Mikoto, for her husband's humiliation and his son's life. That Namikaze kid had always been underestimated. Itachi was beginning to consider him as a dangerous enemy, as dangerous as Yondaime himself. Because he had no limits, no ethics, and he didn't care about Konoha, unlike his father, the Hokage. Additionally, there was something else that worried Itachi. Danzo would now have the proper reasons to order the extermination of the Uchiha clan. Fugaku would fall into the trap of ambition and, under the excuse of rescuing Mikoto, would try to seize power. The Uchiha would die, even before they had the slightest chance to win. While Itachi carefully considered every piece of information he had, Fugaku approached Mikoto. She stood up with her hands on her belly, lowering her head. She wanted to justify what she had done for Sasuke's life, but Fugaku didn't allow her to respond. He gave her a strong and forceful slap that made her fall to the ground. "You fool," the leader accused, "you surrendered like a hostage to our enemy. Sasuke should have died with honor in battle, like an Uchiha. Now he'll be dishonored, and the whole family will be ridiculed because of your recklessness and his defeat." "Fugaku, I just wanted to save." "I don't give a damn," he admonished her. "Now go pack your things and get out of my house. Maybe you'll be useful somewhere else for a change. I don't want to see you again." With all the remaining willpower she had, the woman stood up and left the room. Rejected, expelled by her own family as a traitor. All because she wanted to prevent anyone from dying, all to seek peace, all to help Naruto Namikaze, all to help her son Sasuke. Rejected and now far from her family. What would happen to her? What would Naruto Namikaze do to her? Could her friend Kushina help her? What was the point of help if Mikoto wished to die? Would Naruto kill her? She left the room and headed straight to the Uchiha mansion, unsure of her next destination. "How did you do it, Naruto?" Kushina's question was expected, although Naruto had never bet that it would be his mother to ask it first. She looked serious, calm after Tsunade assured her that everything was fine, but serious. The always smiling Kushina Namikaze appeared more like a ninja instructor than a mother. Naruto had rarely seen her like this, and he knew that her interest as a kunoichi had won over her motherly instincts. "Well," the young man began neutrally, "it's a bit complicated, you see. When you have the ability to absorb and manipulate natural energy, the kind that resides in the environment around us. Well, I had the idea of..." His words were cut off. The door to the office opened, and his father entered, followed by Jiraiya, Tsunade, and the counselors Homura and Koharu. The leaders of the Nara, Yamanaka, and Hyuga clans were also present. They were all witnesses to the honor combat. Minato looked uncomfortable, as if he were there out of obligation, as if his gestures were not what he truly wanted to express. "Young Namikaze," Inoiki Yamanaka began, smiling, "I'm especially grateful for the wonderful battle we witnessed. You demonstrated talent, focus, and, above all, power. Your father's name will now echo in your son's actions." "Admirable performance, young man," Udatane Koharu nodded. "The future of this village is bright, especially if all the young ones have your courage and strength." Naruto smiled faintly. A significant portion of the council paid their respects. Elderly ninjas, experienced leaders, and proud warriors. He even saw an approving look in the white eyes of Lord Hyashihyuga, something that almost no one had ever witnessed in their life. In contrast, the Hokage was containing his frustration. Jiraiya and Tsunade were in the room to prevent things from getting out of control between father and son. After all, who knew how long the madness induced by that jutsu would last? "Allow me to tell you, young Naruto," the elderly counselor continued, "that you have a promising future. The Koharu family would like to invite you and your family to a dinner. We are interested in strengthening our bonds with you." "I find the invitation very interesting," Naruto smiled coldly. "What do you think, Kasen?" He pointed to Kushina, who was quite surprised. "After all, you're the most experienced Uzumaki in this village." "Uzumaki?" Homura Mitokato asked, and everyone discreetly observed the reactions of the Yondaime. "Are you not representing?" "The battle you witnessed," Naruto commented as if protocol dictated, "did not have the blessing of the revered Yondaime Namikaze. Therefore, I represented the honor of the Uzumaki clan because I am the only son of Kushina Uzumaki, a descendant of the formidable Uzumaki ninja of the whirlpool. The silence was deafening, as Naruto implied a clear division from his father. If Koharu-sama still wishes to invite me to dinner, I will be delighted to attend with my mother, if necessary. Hokage-sama, Shikaku Nara stammered, thoroughly bewildered and never having expected this. Could you please explain in more detail what is happening here? Perhaps another time, gentlemen, Minato said seriously. May I have some privacy to speak with my family? We need to rest after the exhausting battle, and you can invite my son all you like later. Good day. Everyone began to leave the room. Jiraiya and Tsunade escorted them out quickly, and the atmosphere seemed to be getting too heavy. The last one to leave the room was Jiraiya, who, with a silent look at Kushina, let her know that he would be outside in case something went wrong. Although with his arm in a cast, he wouldn't be of much help, to be honest. Perhaps Tsunade would be more useful in the end. Naruto leaned against the bed, crossing his legs, and waited in silence for whatever was to come. Minato didn't know what to say. He had never expected such a decisive victory. He knew Sasuke's level perfectly and believed he knew his son's abilities as well. Honestly, it was like discovering that in mathematics, a 5 had more value than 30. He didn't understand it, but undoubtedly, in the last few months, after Sakura Haruno's death, all power levels had been turned upside down. What was Naruto's limit? Congratulations on an excellent battle, son, Minato began, and Kushina stood beside them, a bit apprehensive about having to intervene to separate them. Undoubtedly, your current rank as a high-level chunin is insufficient. You defeated Uchiha Sasuke decisively. Sakura-san has probably regained her honor because of it. The words seemed carefully prepared. He used son instead of Naruto. He also admitted that Naruto's level was much higher than his rank and that he would consider changing it. Finally, he tried to indicate that Sakura's death would be settled with this battle. But Naruto didn't appear particularly attentive or excited about anything. He simply crossed his arms, waiting for Minato to get to the point after all the senseless talking. I think it would be good to attend the dinner with the Koharu clan, Minato continued, despite the lack of reaction from the others. They are very politically influential, and you even have connections with the feudal lord. I believe we could achieve. Kasen, Naruto interrupted the conversation with a firm voice, could you please let Hokage-sama know that our family matters are not his divine concern? Kushina knew exactly what Naruto meant. However, Minato didn't seem to recall the issue, which confused him. Naruto, what are you talking about? Yondaime questioned. You talk about your family as if you weren't name a case. What do you plan to do with Fugaku's wife? You've humiliated Sasuke, don't harm a woman who has nothing to do with the alleged murder. Remember that Mikoto-san has been a friend for many years with your Kasen, Naruto insisted again without changing his stance, could you please let Hokage-sama know that Uzumaki clan matters are not his divine concern? Flashback. Do you remember that afternoon when I was 15? Naruto pointed out, and his father knew which one he meant. You told me you wouldn't try to teach me the Hiraishin no Jutsu because I'd never be able to master it. I did it to motivate you more, to make you train harder. And now, father, he sneered, I tell you that you and your fabulous technique can go to hell. I've proven with my training that I can be a good ninja. You didn't want to be my father, you didn't believe in me, I was just a bargaining chip. So, sit in your leader's chair and watch from the front row as Naruto defends the honor of my family, my mother's clan. Keep in mind that from now on, I am Naruto Uzumaki. End of flashback. So, you plan to separate that woman from her family? Minato asked, now starting to worry. I remind you that Mikoto has always been kind to you. An innocent person should not pay for the wrongs of others. An innocent person like Sakura-chan? Naruto retorted, someone whose only fault was that I loved her, and my father didn't accept it? Let me tell you what we'll do. He announced, standing up straight and walking around the room. You'll continue as always, pretending that I belong to you and you have the right to use me like a kunai. Meanwhile, I'll continue as I have been, doing what I believe is necessary to fulfill my promises. Naruto, I ask you to calm down, Kushina pleaded. I'm very calm, Kasen, the young man smiled, though there was nothing but tension in his voice. Haven't you seen how I could share some of my calmness with Sasuke? Can you imagine what I'll do to someone who really angers me? Do you want to destroy Konoha? Minato pointed out, becoming increasingly concerned. Will you not stop until there's nothing left? Have you thought about the innocent people you'll harm? Didn't you say I was important to the village? Naruto retorted ironically. That I couldn't stray from my destiny? I can't have a happy and peaceful life anymore. I can't be a simple ninja with a small family. I can't have a house in the woods with my wife Sakura, they took that life from me. And someone has to pay for it. Night had fallen in the Leaf Village. In the Namikaze household, Kushina and Mikoto were sitting on the owner's marital bed, trying to sort out this mess. Mikoto had always been a very tough woman. Kushina had never seen her cry, except for one time a long time ago. That night, Mikoto was crying, holding on to the only friend she had in the world. Too many bad things had happened in such a short time. Mikoto had been carrying a heavy burden in her heart for many years, and the current situation had just drained the little resistance she had left. She had finally crumbled. Expelled from her home, humiliated, isolated, and blamed for all the wrongdoings. It wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and Kushina burned with indignation towards Fugaku, her husband Minato, and to some extent, Naruto. How could they use Mikoto in such a cruel way? Fugaku treated her like an object, Naruto as a hostage, and if Minato hadn't insisted so much on coming between Naruto and Sakura, none of this would have happened in the first place. The truth was that Kushina wanted to take someone to task. Her hands literally itched with the desire. Where will I live, Kushina? Mikoto groaned, feeling ashamed. I no longer have a family. I am your family, Mikoto-chan, Kushina smiled faintly, although her disgust didn't allow for a genuine optimistic expression. You'll live here in my house. It doesn't matter what others think. I'll protect you. Mikoto felt her soul comforted. Kushina wouldn't abandon her despite what the entire village might say. Kushina was the kind of person who never cared about gossip. That special kind of person whose dependence on society wasn't tied to the general moral code. She was a good friend, loyal, and brave. Qualities that had helped her endure what everyone said about her for being a Jinchuriki. Meanwhile, in the dining room, the Sannin watched as Naruto and Minato began to argue again, even though only a few hours had passed since their last argument at the hospital. Naruto began to gather his clothes and belongings again to move back to his apartment. He intended to take Mikoto with him, which was improbable, because even Kushina would raise a fuss. Both Minato and Kushina had some reservations about what their son intended to do to the Uchiha woman once he had her trapped and alone. Mikoto-san will stay in my house for now, Minato announced, to which the Sannin agreed. Your apartment is inadequate for more than one person, especially a married woman living with a child. It's very simple, Naruto responded, trying to control his anger. I will take on some S-rank missions to earn the necessary money. Then, I'll change the apartment for a house and S-rank missions are too important to entrust them to an imprudent who can't even control his techniques, Minato resolved, knowing that he had Naruto cornered. I won't allow you to dishonor Mikoto so that the Uchiha will turn against us. I will return her to them. Are you in agreement with him? Naruto asked, looking annoyed at Jiraiya. I agree that you've taken this matter too far, the Gamma Sannin nodded seriously. I think it's best to keep civilians out of this fight. Mikoto-san has nothing to do with. I see, Naruto interrupted, frustrated. Now you're against me too. He then looked slightly at Tsunade, who was remaining silent, and focused on his master. I thought at least you'd understand, Uro-sennin. But Minato was always your favorite. I don't know why I'm surprised. He picked up his bags of clothing and headed towards the door. Everyone expected he would still try to take Mikoto with him, but the young man simply opened the door and declared upon seeing the two women in the hallway leading to the bedrooms. For now, you stay here, Mikoto-san, he announced sternly. But it will be for a short time, that's a promise. And if I find out that someone, he said ominously, has returned you to the Uchiha mansions, that someone will become my enemy. I hope they're prepared to kill like I am. Good night. With that, he slammed the door, which sounded like thunder in the silence. Great. He arrived at his office in the Anbu route headquarters, and when he was alone, he couldn't help but smile. Great. Better than expected, far superior to what was calculated, spectacular compared to what was assumed. There was nothing in the world that gave Shimura Danzo as much satisfaction as his plans coming to fruition. However, there was something even more significant. These rare situations occurred when a long-studied plan ended up taking an unexpected turn, and the result was even better. The leader of Root couldn't help but acknowledge this weakness and sat down at his desk in his office. With his free arm, he took out a bottle and a glass, preparing to make a toast to his success. Naruto Namikaze, he muttered to himself. I never thought you'd come this far. You've surprised me, young man. A few months ago, he had seen Naruto as a simple pawn, easily expendable to achieve greater goals. But now, that pawn had turned into a powerful bishop, a formidable weapon in this silent war that the Uchiha had initiated against the village, the colossal show of superiority and power that the young son of the Hokage had demonstrated against one of the best Uchiha warriors gave Danzo a certain sense of tranquility. Lately, he had been wondering what plan he could put into motion if Itachi didn't follow Konoha's orders. Danzo was aware that every man had his weaknesses, and the biggest weakness of Fugaku's eldest son was his foolish devotion to peace. Peace? What was the use of peace in the ninja world? Shinobi villages stagnated in times of peace, children grew weaker, women went from being useful kunoichi to mere mothers. There was no honor in peace. There was no blood, which was the lifeblood of the shinobi way. Right now, the leader of Root had a contingency strategy in mind. If Itachi were to betray Konoha's orders, Naruto Namikaze was the right weapon to make him pay. "You are a diamond in the rough, young man," Danzo said with a faint smile, taking a sip from his glass. "A wind-style ninja needs to train you to polish those virtues. I'm the one who will train you." Naruto was a futon type, and trained by Gamasanin Jiraiya, he would never reach the levels of excellence that Danzo believed he could develop. So, the counselor came up with an idea. He would lure Naruto Namikaze to Root, train him, indoctrinate him, and turn him into his most feared right-hand man. That beastly technique, combined with a deep understanding of futon jutsu, would turn a promising young man into a formidable weapon in the global war. "Right now, you don't trust anyone, young man," he continued, as if practicing a future conversation. "Teamwork is what the weak preach. Great victories are obtained alone, as we, the strong, say." While he thought about every word he would say, Danzo summoned a subordinate. 5 minutes later, Captain Yugao Uzuki knelt before the Anbu leader, awaiting her new orders. "I want you to bring Naruto Namikaze before me," Danzo ordered, coldly. "I need to have a private meeting with him, and no one must find out." "Do I need to coerce him?" she asked, and she genuinely hoped it wouldn't come to that for her life's sake. "No," the leader replied. "He needs to come of his own volition. I will make him an offer to join me. It's time to put him definitively in my service. Find out whatever is necessary to make him come, and be careful of Jiraiya. He's more cunning than he appears. Now, go, and don't return without young Namikaze." When he was alone again in his office, Danzo Shimura emitted that cold, satisfied smile once more. Taking Minato's son away from him would be a fatal blow to his leadership. Naruto had to become a part of Anbu Root by any means necessary. Danzo would be prepared to offer him anything: money, luxury, women, techniques, training, whatever it took to make him his disciple. From Danzo's point of view, it was pure irony that the son of Fugaku would one day destroy his clan, eliminating the only obstacle to Danzo's rise to power. And now, Minato's son would take his hat, figuratively speaking. It was almost poetic, considering that just a few months ago, Danzo had tried to take Naruto Namikaze's life. Fortunately, he had failed. Several days passed since the battle between Naruto and Sasuke. During this time, Naruto didn't visit his parents' house. No one knew where he was. Some people saw him training in the fields, while others spotted him eating at the ramen stand as usual. He crossed paths with his friends from his generation a couple of times, exchanged words without any issues. He even had a long conversation with Ino Yamanaka when both young people met at the cemetery while visiting Sakura's grave. Gradually, after the intense fight, it seemed like he was returning to the old Naruto who was in love with Sakura back in the happier days. He slept in his apartment, trained hard, and hardly spoke to anyone in particular. Jiraiya watched him from the shadows in the early days to ensure he didn't do anything reckless against the Uchiha. And to study him. Something about Naruto's mind bothered the Sannin since the night of the argument with Minato in the Namikaze house. Naruto's responses, his gestures, and especially his aggressiveness. He was angry that night, maybe due to the adrenaline of the impending battle or his frustration at leaving Sasuke alive. Jiraiya felt there was something more. As the days passed, Naruto's aggressive behavior dissolved. The hatred that seemed to exude from him through his pores was back under control. It was clear that Tsunade's initial theory had been correct. The technique Naruto had used not only modified his physical structure to increase his level but also triggered his animal instinct, his killer instinct. It was like a dark cloud that followed him, one that dissipated with time. 4 days after the fight, Jiraiya appeared at the training ground to greet his student. Naruto welcomed him with a smile and even apologized for the arm he had broken. They talked about this, that, and more. They even had lunch together at Ichiraku, and it seemed like the good Naruto had returned, at least partially. "How's Mikoto-san?" Naruto inquired weakly in the middle of their meal. "Try to appear strong, Jiraiya admitted softly. Your mother is with her everywhere, taking care of her, comforting her, and trying to cheer her up. But it's clear that Mikoto is very hurt. Is she angry with me? Not exactly, Jiraiya smiled. Of course, she's a lady, she'd never voice her sorrows in front of others. But your mother is transparent as the wind, he concluded cunningly, and from how harshly she speaks of Fugaku Uchiha, I'd say Mikoto's husband bears the primary responsibility for her sadness. Or maybe it's because of her son's health, Naruto suggested. From what I heard, they won't let her see him. Fugaku has forbidden her from getting close. She was the same, and well. Things don't seem to be going well over there. I should have killed him, Naruto said neutrally. That idiot doesn't deserve anyone's protection. Why didn't you? Jiraiya pointed out. You're not going to tell me Mikoto-san caught your eye, right? He grinned in a lecherous manner. Only the wise pervert could come up with such nonsense, Naruto said, smiling faintly. She didn't. He couldn't explain it, Mikoto-chan saved my life. I had to repay that. Jiraiya finally understood the situation a bit better. Naruto owed his life to that woman and, as a result, put his vengeance aside to return the favor. However, with Mikoto separated from her family and Naruto isolated, it was unclear what the next step in this internal war between the Hokage's office, the Uchiha, Danzo, and Naruto would be. Jiraiya could see where this was heading if the equation remained unchanged. I heard you went to your father's office to request missions, Jiraiya noted. How did it go? Minato is still trying to block me from taking Mikoto out of her home, Naruto said. He said he'd give me any rank and money I needed, but only if I released Mikoto to return to her clan. Being Hokage means protecting everyone, Naruto, Jiraiya pointed out, finding a balance between obligations and rights. My father, the young man said with disdain, doesn't seem to understand who he's dealing with. He thinks he's clever and uses his position to keep me in check, he smiled coldly, and Jiraiya knew there would be more problems. I guess he plans to delay everything until my anger dissipates. To buy time, distract me, and throw me off balance, but he doesn't understand that since Sakura-chan's death, I live with only one purpose, to make the Uchiha pay for what they did to her. What if you succeed? What will you be left with? Jiraiya asked. The village Sakura defended, just like you, will be in ruins. Have you thought that even Sakura's parents might suffer because of it? Would she really like the kind of person you become? His teacher's words had a powerful effect. They made him doubt, for the first time in a long while. What about Kushina? What would happen to his mother's safety if everything went south? How would he protect Mikoto in the event of an open war? Many friends of his generation and their families would also be in the line of fire. Would it be good to continue on the path of open and total war? Uro-sennin had a point. It pained Naruto to admit that he had lost his way in some respects. He was blinded by rage, and about to strike at the wrong people. He needed to realign, restructure. I've been following you for several days, Jiraiya admitted. I know, Naruto responded, surprising him. You're good, but we trained together for too long. I can find you, maybe I'm the only one who can. And the Anbu have been following you too, the Sannin continued. Do you plan to give them a reason to take action? Do you intend to attack the Uchiha directly? Naruto fell silent. He knew that whatever he said to Jiraiya, his father would find out. The Sannin might appreciate Naruto a lot, but he was also on Minato's side. He was his informant, his friend, and his master as well. Jiraiya was here to speak on Minato's behalf and gather as much information as he could. The truth. Naruto said with feigned serenity, I don't think it's right to waste my energy on sweeping away the Anbu who watch over me, along with you, Granny Tsunade, my father, and everyone who supports him, just to strike at the Uchiha. I'll simply focus on improving my technique control. Train hard, move out soon, and have the money you lent me for the apartment ready. Leave the money, Jiraiya said, surprised because he didn't know where Naruto would get it to repay him. After all, you're my godson, and... No, godfather, of course not, Naruto smiled slightly. You know I promised to repay it, and my word always comes first. My promises are my path, even the smallest ones. Those without a word have no honor. Those who don't love will never learn to hate with enough strength. They parted on good terms. But with his extensive experience in espionage, Jiraiya could understand what he needed to know about Naruto. First, he wouldn't directly attack Fugaku Uchiha. And most importantly, he would never stop keeping the promises he had made. Naruto had promised to destroy Sakura Haruno's killers. The method might be different, but he would never cease in his pursuit of that goal. A will of steel, a wounded heart filled with anguish. A man who always kept his word. A couple of days later, Naruto used his primary skill that everyone knew him for, surprising people. No one could have expected he would go to such lengths, no one could have anticipated the events that unfolded. But from the moment he appeared at the Namikaze house that evening, his parents, Tsunade and her student Shizune, Jiraiya, and Mikoto knew he had a new plan in mind. He told the Uchiha woman to pack her things because he was moving again. The discussion about the small apartment came up again, but this time Naruto was determined to break the deadlock imposed by the Hokage. "I've just moved to a very nice house," he said with a cold smile. "Kasen is invited to see it whenever she wants," he added, with a mocking gesture toward his father. "Mikoto-san, it's time for you to come." Finally, despite his mother's pleas and his father's questions, Naruto led Mikoto out of the Namikaze house. They walked in complete silence for a few minutes. She kept her head down and was quite worried about what Naruto would do next. But nothing strange happened. They simply arrived at a beautiful house near the woods and went inside. Kushina had decided to accompany them, trying to do everything possible to prevent her son from doing something unforgivable. Minutes later, the 3-bedroom house with a spacious bathroom, dining room, and kitchen was ready. Kushina tried to stay as long as possible, but night fell on the village, and she inevitably had to leave. She greeted Mikoto, promising to return in the morning and trying to get Naruto to promise that they would all have lunch together at the Namikaze house the next day. The young man personally rejected the proposal, stating that he had to train. But he gave Mikoto the freedom to accept. "You're not a prisoner here, Mikoto-san," he admitted with a slight smile. "You can go to lunch with my mother if you want." Mikoto didn't know what to expect, so she simply accepted it, not wanting to argue about it any further. Some time later, she found herself alone in that house with young Namikaze. A strange atmosphere had developed between them. He could say she wasn't a prisoner, but that's exactly how she felt. They didn't see each other for several hours. Naruto was in his room, and she took the opportunity to take a bath. When she finally emerged, the entire dining room was dark, and maybe the young man had gone to sleep. She was only dressed in a bathrobe. She entered her own room, locked the door, and as she was heading to her bed, she noticed him standing in a corner of the room. "Naruto-san," she stammered, trying not to appear nervous. "What do you want in this room?" He approached slowly, and she held onto the robe's ties at her waist. Was he going to violate her? Technically, she was his, and he could do whatever he wanted. She was a spoil of war, he had acquired her when she traded her life for Sasuke's. "Do I have to undress?" she suggested, wounded in her pride. "Of course not," he whispered when he was just 2 steps away from her. "I would never force a woman. I just wanted to tell you something before going to sleep. I want it to be clear from the beginning. Okay?" Mikoto nodded in silence, but held his gaze, and Naruto liked that about her. She had a strong personality even if she hid it. "You're not a prisoner in this house. You can leave tomorrow. Anywhere you want, for as long as you want. You have no obligation to me. You're not my slave, you're not my servant. You don't have to cook, clean, or do anything in this house." "Then, can I leave too?" she began. "The only thing you have to do for me," he interrupted, "is to be in this house from 9 p.m. every day. You'll spend the night here, and in the morning, you can go wherever you like." "But why you?" she started to ask. "No questions, no answers," he said, serious. "My only requirement is this: starting at 9 p.m., you're inside this house. No excuses, no buts, no tricks. Every night, here. If you don't want to talk to me, if you don't want to eat with me or even see me, I understand. But still, you'll obey this one warning. Every night, here, until the next morning. Understood?" What could she say? How could she even feel good or bad when she didn't understand the reason for this order? Naruto wasn't going to possess her, enslave her, or use her for his service. Even Mikoto had permission not to speak to him or even share dinner with him. Technically, she only had to sleep in that new house, and everything else would be as usual. Why sleep? Why did she have to stay there if Naruto didn't plan to take her as his woman? Mikoto had too many questions, but in the Uchiha clan, women had no voice or vote. She was simply used to not deciding her own destiny, so she limited herself to nodding and watched him leave the room in silence. Days began to pass without a pause. For almost 2 weeks, they practically didn't see each other. Sometimes they crossed paths in the hallway of the house, but Naruto and Mikoto were nothing more than strangers. The woman spent almost all her days with Kushina. The two of them took advantage of all the time to be together. Kushina was worried about her son's intentions, her friend's fate, and the consequences this revenge adventure could still bring. However, Naruto didn't seem interested in hurting Mikoto. "I can only think of one thing, Kushina, only one reason why he forbids me from being with my family," Mikoto told her friend in a private conversation. "Something bad is going to happen, and he doesn't want me in the middle of the chaos." "Something bad?" Kushina didn't understand. "The pervert Jiraiya said that Naruto doesn't plan to attack your family. What else could happen?" "I don't know," Mikoto denied slightly. "But it's not the only thing that worries me. Naruto-kun is not okay. He doesn't talk to anyone, I always see him only briefly, and he's hurt every time. I don't know what kind of training he's doing, but he's in a lot of pain." "He hasn't told me anything either," Kushina admitted. "He hasn't even told me who he's training with, where the money he has now comes from, or how he managed to buy that house. You know, as an Uzumaki descendant, Naruto can form a clan separate from his father's. He can make deals with other families, and I have no idea what he's doing now," the serious Uchiha woman responded. "But I doubt he's spending his time on business deals. I'd say he's either training or being tortured, or a combination of both. Either way, I'm worried." Mikoto really didn't want to worry Kushina further by revealing exactly what was happening in Naruto's house. But she felt she had to talk to someone. The truth was that the boy was ending up too injured for it to be considered normal training. The Uchiha woman had also noticed that the Anbu special hunters were keeping a close watch on Naruto's house. Something strange was happening. Naruto wasn't going on missions but had money. He acted kindly but was also distant on many occasions. "I'll try to get closer to him a little," Mikoto told her friend. "Talk to him, advise him. He's a young man who has suffered a lot, but he's still good." "Be careful, Miko-chan," the redhead warned. "And if you need help, you know I'm always here for both of you." 2 nights later, Naruto arrived at his house around 10 in the evening, practically drained. The training sessions with the Anbu under Danzo's command were exhausting. They were cruel and, to some extent, worthy of being included as a torture method for Morino's interrogation division. However, Danzo had truly impressive wind techniques. Any weapon imbued with futon increased the damage range so much that practically every attack was lethal. Naruto knew that Danzo was hiding things from him. He knew that Danzo had few scruples and despised Minato's leadership. There were certain problems with the Uchiha, which were unknown to young Namikaze until that moment, but they seemed deep enough for Danzo to consider exterminating the entire clan. Naruto knew this because Danzo had used this proposal to recruit him. "I'll agree to train and work for you," Naruto told him that night when they made the deal, "but I want to make 2 things very clear. Number 1, if anything happens to my mother, well, what I did with Sasuke will seem like child's play. And lastly, Mikoto Uchiha is mine, she's under my protection and must not be harmed. Any plan to assassinate the Uchiha clan should not include her. My intention is not to harm the Jinchuriki, and I also won't meddle with your sexual plaything," Danzo said, completely emotionless. "I have only one obsession in my life, young man. I confess it to you. My only goal is to protect Konoha from any external or internal attack. At any cost. Starting tomorrow, you will begin training with me. Needless to say, this is classified." Naruto was annoyed just by remembering Danzo. He was a scrupulous man who hated Kushina and seemed to have a negative fixation on the Uchiha. Naruto could say many bad things about Minato Namikaze as a father, but specifically as the village leader and Hokage, he was the best. He wouldn't choose anyone else to replace him. Danzo was precisely the last person he would consider if there were no other options. Naruto could barely sit properly in a chair. Mikoto appeared in the dining room. She always seemed serious or impassive. But Naruto didn't want to bother her with his problems, he just wanted to protect her, to keep her safe, as he couldn't do with Sakura-chan. "You're injured, Naruto," she said, showing a hint of concern. "Let me help you." "I don't want to be a bother," he mumbled because they hadn't talked in a while, and he thought she might be upset. "I've told you that you have no obligation." "I'm not obligated," she admitted, taking a small box used as a first aid kit from a nearby cabinet, "but still, I was a kunoichi like your mother, and if I can assist you, I don't see any reason not to." She helped him take off his jacket. The young man's body was well defined. His muscles, the hardness of his chest, the deeply marked abdomen, Mikoto couldn't help but remember what it felt like to be a woman. Naruto was a boy the same age as her youngest son, he was the offspring of her best friend, Kushina. But how could she avoid recognizing what this young man made her feel? The strong, masculine scent, the energy pulsating through his skin. Naruto was what many men would never achieve. And he was young, He had a whole life ahead of him. Why waste it on revenge? I know you don't understand what I'm doing, Naruto whispered. And I can't tell you everything. But I promise you that I'll make that life you've given me count. For just one night, you were my life. I only did what I had to do, the woman replied neutrally as she treated his left arm. It wasn't fair that they did something so cruel to you. Naruto used his right hand to gently cup the woman's face. They stared at each other for a few seconds, and he had made her neglect the arm's treatment. That night, I wanted to die, but you stood between my end and me, he said. Now I'm telling you. I know you'll die one day. And I'll be in the middle of your end. And I'll be your new beginning. It's a promise. Hello, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to share some exciting news. If you or your friends enjoy watching My Hero Academia fanfiction content, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Snuggy Dude. You can find the link to my channel in the video's description. On Snuggy Dude, I create new My Hero Academia fanfictions on a daily basis. Thank you for your support. It had been 3 months since Mikoto was expelled from the Uchiha clan. Almost 90 days since she had the obligation to live in Naruto Namake's Uzumaki's house. What initially seemed like a destiny of slavery and humiliation transformed into a kind of retreat. Naruto Namake's had no intention of causing her harm, under any circumstances. Mikoto couldn't exactly define what Naruto wanted from her, which kept her on alert. But initially, it didn't seem bad. The night when Mikoto helped with Naruto's bandages and healing, however, was a sort of fresh start for both of them. In the following days, they met when Naruto returned from his rigorous training, and Mikoto not only helped with healing but also prepared dinner for both of them. This is delicious, Naruto said one evening, and she felt strange. I almost regret not making you cook for me all the time. Mikoto smiled, flattered. She was very pleased that someone finally appreciated her cooking efforts. She loved cooking, maybe it was what she enjoyed most in civilian life. However, even though she was an extraordinarily skilled cook, her family had never shown such genuine gratitude. They were men who devoured as if it were an obligation and left the table without even saying, "Thank you." The nights became an obligatory gathering for both of them. They met, talked about their respective daily activities, had dinner, and often washed the dishes and tidied up before saying goodnight and going to their respective rooms. Naruto began to talk about funny things, made her laugh like she had never laughed before. Living with Naruto was pleasant and easy. Step by step, one thing led to another. One morning, things finally changed. Young Namikaze had scattered habits, but there was one thing he was not willing to give up at all. Regardless of fatigue, time, or the wounds from the previous day, he always got up very early to start his morning exercise routine. Mikoto didn't sleep much, so she spent the first hours of the day waiting in her room for Naruto to change, have breakfast, and head out to train. When they started talking at night, Mikoto realized that Naruto didn't eat anything before going out in the morning. A review of the carefully organized provisions she had led to the conclusion that Naruto didn't touch anything before going for his run. As they got along better at night, Mikoto began to go down to the dining room in the morning and prepare tea or coffee with something homemade so that Naruto wouldn't go for his run on an empty stomach. She began to take care of certain matters that young Naruto didn't seem to pay attention to. They chatted, sometimes sharing things about their dreams at night, and in good spirits, Naruto would run several kilometers before starting his jutsu practice. One morning, Naruto made her a proposition. "You must be bored," he said, smiling. "Kasen always said you were a very strong kunoichi a long time ago. How about coming for a run with me?" Mikoto politely declined the invitation, although part of her wanted to accept. That morning, she spoke with Kushina at the Namake's house. She told her that her son was doing well and seemed to be in great spirits compared to the wild individual he used to be. The redhead returned the favor by finding out about Sasuke, whom Mikoto couldn't visit due to the rejection and humiliation that all Uchiha felt towards her. Kushina informed her that Sasuke was stable and would need much more time to leave the hospital. Nights and days became routine for Naruto and Mikoto. They both got used to each other and looked good together. Even the woman suggested some training techniques after noticing Naruto's use of clones and taijutsu similar to his mother's. They never talked about the technique Naruto used to defeat Sasuke. The young man seemed uncomfortable with that memory and didn't seem to want to use it again. Mikoto was very perceptive. She knew she shouldn't bring up that matter and focused on other things. "I was Kushina's teammate for a long time," Mikoto smiled, telling Naruto at dinner. The bloody habanero was a specialist in frontline combat, impossible to stop when she was angry. "And you were her support with the Sharingan, I suppose," Naruto reasoned aloud. "A deadly duo. You've undoubtedly been amazing." Do you ever miss being a kunoichi? Mikoto responded with a maybe to avoid saying that she missed it terribly. When she was younger, even before marrying Fugaku due to leaders' agreements, Mikoto was one of the strongest warriors in the Uchiha clan. Her specialty was fire techniques, like most, but she also excelled in genjutsu and kinjutsu. She was an expert in ambushes and had extensive knowledge of human anatomy, enough to need only one precise blow to kill. Fate made her the only daughter of an elderly leader. To maintain unity within the family, they forced her to marry another Uchiha clan member at the age of 15. It was a marriage of convenience where Fugaku was later appointed as the clan's general leader, and Mikoto had to sacrifice her kunoichi career in favor of continuing the bloodline. She had to stop being a ninja, which she loved the most, to become the wife of a man who never showed her affection. It was her destiny, and she accepted it even if it cost her heart. 2 weeks after the first offer, Naruto Namikaze tried again. Mikoto would remember that morning forever. There was something strange in the air from the moment she stepped out of bed. She couldn't define it, couldn't prove it, but despite being like any other morning, a morning where Mikoto prepared breakfast and Naruto got ready to train, that day would be different at its core. Mikoto-san, Naruto said with that affectionate nickname he used when he truly appreciated someone, it's very boring to run alone. Are you sure there's no chance of joining me today? She smiled, as had become customary in Naruto Namikaze's company. She smiled and nodded gracefully, setting aside the embarrassment she would feel being out of shape, setting aside what everyone would think of her seeing her with a handsome young man, and went to her room to get the ninja equipment she had bought a few days earlier for reasons unknown. Stripping out of her kimono, adjusting her clothes to her perfectly formed and well-preserved figure. She pinned her hair on the sides so her face would always be free of the deep black cascade of silk. Ready to start her journey, she left the Uzumaki house accompanied by that strange young man, the one who filled her with tranquility, respected her, listened to her, looked into her eyes with sincerity and genuine interest. The one everyone thought was a demon but, for her, looked like an angel. Around the table, the Namikaze couple received a visit from the two Sannin still loyal to the village, Tsunade, accompanied by her student Shizune, and Jiraiya, who had come to inform the Hokage about the secret activities of all the factions in Konoha. During the early hours, everything seemed like a typical dinner among acquaintances, almost a gathering of friends. But during dessert, they began exchanging information beyond the ordinary. Our suspicions have been confirmed, Minato, declared Jiraiya. Naruto is training under Danzo's tutelage. That damn one-eyed man is paying him a fortune. That's where your son's money is coming from. Why is he paying him? Inquired the sage of the toads. He's been sent on missions outside the village, spy missions. And using the techniques I taught him, he's at least the best spy en route. But that's not all. Surely that bastard Danzo is trying to gain control over that boy, admonished Tsunade, taking a careless sip of sake. It's very easy to influence him, especially because Naruto shares the same enemy with that jackal. It was true, the Uchiha and Danzo were on opposite sides. Naruto was training directly to kill them. It had undoubtedly been quite easy for the leader of Root to turn the tide in his favor. Naruto now belonged to him, working for him in espionage and who knows what other matters. Minato, you have to bring our son back, Kushina intervened nervously. You have to support him and keep him away from that damn Danzo. It's easy to say, Tsunade remarked with that ironic gesture that annoyed both friends and strangers, but in case you didn't notice, strength won't work against that kid. That new technique he used to defeat the Uchiha turns him into a beast. He's just missing the excuse to unleash it. That technique, Kushina inquired, you said he couldn't use it, or it would harm him, Tsunade-chan. Apparently, I was mistaken, she scoffed, waving her hand in a dismissive manner. Your son countered the negative effects with a significant increase in physical resistance. He disciplined his body to endure punishment so rigorously that he now withstands the harmful effects of that technique with ease. He may not be as elegant as the Hokage, but he makes up for his lack of talent with determination. Anyone who stands in his way will meet their end. No more, no less. That's bad, Minato declared, his tone serious. I don't want to be the only one who can stop him. I don't want to have to do it, but if he attacks the Uchiha. He won't, Jiraiya interrupted. He's working for Danzo now, and that old man is clever as a fox. He's preparing Naruto for when he has the council's support. The Uchiha are locked in now, their position is precarious, and if Fugaku continues to act according to his ambitions, I see a dark future for his family. What happened to Fugaku's wife? Tsunade asked. Has Naruto? Oh no, Jiraiya denied, and Kushina nodded in agreement. Naruto is the last person who wants to harm her. My theory is this. Naruto wants to have Mikoto-san under his control simply to keep her away from trouble. That's ridiculous, Minato stated. If it ever came to war against the Uchiha, Mikoto is not a kunoichi but a civilian. Civilians wouldn't get involved. Jiraiya and Tsunade exchanged furtive glances. It was clear that Minato was unaware of the extent of Danzo's reach. It was also evident that the Hokage was the only one playing this game of politics and power cleanly. The others would use every trick in the book to achieve their objectives, and many corpses would litter the village's streets. And not just ninja, the Sannin were almost certain of that. The Anbu headquarters were silent. The hunters were generally unsociable individuals, and they only communicated orders, often in writing to save sound. Moreover, their movements were always cloaked in stealth. It was like watching a silent scene, witnessing as men and women changed in the dressing rooms or had lunch in the dining hall. Naruto found these things a little annoying. Everyone was pretending not to be human. Everyone was pretending to be machines. Quite amusing, considering that most of them repressed their emotions, only letting them loose when they had to train or carry out missions. It was futile to escape from one's nature, but the special Anbu hunters were experts in denying it. Naruto walked through the corridors of the office on the second floor. In the last room, the division leader awaited him. Behind the desk, Danzo Shimura reviewed Itachi's reports while Naruto stood in front of the desk, awaiting his judgment. When Naruto entered, he noticed two shinobi and a kunoichi guarding the room, or perhaps they were just awaiting orders, like Uchiha. Uzumaki, Danzo announced upon seeing him enter, intentionally using his maternal last name to dissociate him from the Hokage. Your training has progressed favorably. Captain Uzuki has reported that you can now join the special divisions without any problems. Naruto only gave a brief glance to the masked woman a few steps away from him. She might be able to disguise herself with that outfit and the same mask as the others, but her long, silky purple hair gave her away. Nevertheless, she remained completely still, even when summoned by the leader. She appeared as if she were a statue. I will now put you on a team with Itachi, the leader said, as serious as ever. You will work together from now on. You must be perfectly in sync within a month. It's necessary and imperative. Here, he placed 3 scrolls on his desk, visible to everyone, are 3 missions to complete. Return when they are fulfilled, both of you. Or do not return. Itachi took the scrolls calmly, as if expecting Naruto to participate in the actions. However, the blonde showed no interest in taking control of the team. Traveling with him these days would be like traveling with the enemy. Both knew it was better for the other to die. But neither could make the first move for personal reasons. They left the office in silence and, side by side, headed outside the Anbu headquarters. Itachi was heading to the training grounds, while Naruto was only following to find out about the missions. Finally, they stood face to face in a forested area somewhat removed from the Anbu structures. I suppose we should train a bit to get to know each other before we set out, Itachi said impassively. I'm not interested in getting to know you, Naruto replied with equal terseness. I just want to complete the missions and get back home with a pay. And even if I needed to train with you, I would never use my best techniques for you to study. So let's get this over with and get to work. Itachi nodded calmly. Naruto had matured and trusted no one. It was a wise decision. One should never trust the Anbu. Itachi had learned this lesson the day he joined the Special Corps. Furthermore, the worry that Naruto might go berserk and attack the Uchiha clan head-on had diminished day by day for months. Few people even remembered the beating Sasuke had received, to name just one incident. They left the village 12 hours later. Naruto suggested to Mikoto that she stay at Kushina's house so she wouldn't be alone. The woman agreed to the proposal, but she felt quite comfortable in Naruto's house. She would take these days to buy some things and make everything more orderly and harmonious. After all, she had been living there for months, and it didn't seem like the situation would change anytime soon. We have 3 missions, Itachi said, noticing that his partner didn't seem particularly concerned about anything except eating his rations. An assassination, a kidnapping for information, and also the search for an encrypted scroll. Naruto continued to focus on his food, which was exasperating. However, at the moment, he didn't have much to do. Itachi was clearly the team leader, based mainly on his greater experience. Naruto's attitude was irksome, and it was unrecognizable from the person who had been his younger brother's friend. I'll handle the kidnapping for information, Itachi declared neutrally, taking for granted his advantage with the Sharingan. You have good espionage skills. You'll go to a small village to the east, Otogakur. There, you'll obtain the scroll, and your identity must remain concealed, as well as that of the informant. Any questions? What about the assassination? Naruto asked tersely. Is it mine or yours? The location is near my first mission. I can handle it, and we'll meet here in 3 days. Naruto simply extended his hand, and Itachi handed him the scroll for his mission. After briefly reading the contents, with no apparent emotion, Naruto nodded and covered himself with a blanket, turning to sleep. Itachi raised an innocent eyebrow. Did he think he could sleep comfortably in the middle of the forest with a potential enemy as his only companion? Was he being foolish, or did he know something Itachi didn't? He was about to ask when a small explosion came from near Naruto's position. A small frog made a graceful leap away from the campsite. The creature was barely visible in the darkness but clearly had an alarm function. Itachi smiled. The Toad Sage had trained him more than adequately for surviving in the wilderness. Naruto might appear basic to inexperienced eyes, but he was a formidable opponent. Itachi had a feeling. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kushina tried again. 100 of her shadow clones surrounded the training ground, while her rival stood in the center, awaiting the mass attack. Mikoto wore a brilliant smile, although she was sweating, happy in a way that Kushina could barely remember from a long time ago. Her katana danced with such grace that it seemed like her partner in a gala dance, rather than a tool for destruction. Kushina's clones were strong and moved well, although she was somewhat out of shape. But Mikoto showed no sign of damage, moving effortlessly through so many attacking red-haired enemies, who exploded around her without even touching her. It seems like she's very happy, Kushina thought as she watched the battle a few meters away. It's been so long since we trained. So many years. Mikoto leapt, and her strikes caused about 12 clones that attacked her in the air to burst into smoke. Her right hand defended her position, while her left hand was filled with a neatly arranged stack of shuriken from her attire. She brought her hand full of shuriken to her mouth, and almost as if she whispered a secret, she transformed them into a firestorm that elegantly spread across the entire field. Fire shuriken, Kushina thought, watching her clones get destroyed. She extended her range by jumping and defends her position until she hits the ground with her katana and her Sharingan. What a technique! She smiled, impressed. Nearly 100 shadow clones were destroyed in a matter of seconds. As Mikoto landed on the ground, she found herself surrounded once again. However, when several Kushinas attempted to capture her, her entire body turned as dark as her silky hair. Transformed into this strange figure, she seemed to be crushed by the assault of the clones. Kushina knew what this meant just by knowing her too well. Damn it! Kai! Kushina yelled, bringing her hands together. How the hell did he make me fall for a genjutsu from there? It doesn't work as well as doing it in person, Kushina heard her friend's voice behind her. But if you put genjutsu on the clones and then force them to disperse, it serves as a distraction. Kushina turned around, and Mikoto pointed her katana directly at her throat. The practice had ended, and both of them smiled, reminiscing about the old days when they used to train hard. Those were very different days for them, back when they were young, before love came to Kushina and responsibilities to Mikoto. But if there was one thing that had remained the same, it was the friendship they shared. You've gotten in shape, Kushina said, noting that she was somewhat out of practice. You don't seem tired at all, and I'm using my last reserves. I've been training again for a while, the brunette admitted happily. I didn't have much to do ever since I stopped working day in and day out at the Uchiha mansion. That fire flower technique was very original, Kushina noted, picking up some weapons from the ground, and both of them got ready to leave. The Phoenix Flames jutsu is only good for a single area attack. But from the air and all around you, you can do a lot of damage. Naruto-kun gave me the idea, and I've also practiced the combination of genjutsu on clones with him. Naruto-kun. For some reason, it felt strange to Kushina to hear her friend refer to him that way. She couldn't put her finger on it, but it didn't sit well with her. What if her son and her friend? Mikoto-chan, I want to ask you something, Kushina said seriously. You haven't done anything unusual with my Naruto, have you? Mikoto felt quite uncomfortable with that question. Even more so with the answer she had to give. Logic dictated that she should say no. Nothing had happened between her and Naruto outside the ordinary. But that was not the truth, and Mikoto remembered it vividly. One night, even though it wasn't something spontaneous or consensual, she had slept with Naruto. She couldn't explain the situation to Kushina, as it was just impossible to understand. If she told her what had really happened, how bad would things get? No, she definitely couldn't tell her. So, she simply chose to lie and put on her best surprised face. Kushina, do you really think I'm so irresistible that a handsome young man would be interested in me? Well, not exactly, Kushina stammered. You are a beautiful woman, and you've always been. But Naruto is my son. It wouldn't be right if you. Hee, Mikoto laughed, taking some of the tension out of the conversation and steering away from the subject. Naruto is the same age as my son. What crazy thoughts are you having? Really, Naruto wouldn't find me appealing, even if I turned back time. I'm like his aunt, remember? Fortunately, that last comment lightened the mood. Mikoto felt relieved that she had managed to close the topic and not let Kushina connect any more dots. It had been only one night, just one night, and the circumstances had been far from normal. Naruto was like a child to her, and there was no real chance of something happening between them. It would be a scandal, madness. While living together provided numerous opportunities for a clandestine relationship, the problems and resentments associated with it would never allow such a perverse idea to blossom. Right? Naruto would never see her as a woman. After all, she was her mother's friend and also a member of the clan Naruto hated so much because of his fiancée's death. Blood ties prevented them from ever being together. Although there were times when the forbidden ignited the most intense desire. The campfire bathed the area in a soft warmth, setting the stage for another round of the silent conversation. After 3 days, having successfully completed their respective missions, Itachi Uchiha and Naruto Namikaze reunited at the same spot where they had parted ways. They had been remarkably effective and powerful, accomplishing their objectives without any hitches, even without the support of a team. Naruto simply handed over the scroll with the required information, and Itachi, using his Sharingan, confirmed that the seal hadn't been broken. The contents remained intact, the information hidden, and Naruto appeared to have done his part without any problems. "We'll depart at dawn to return to Konoha," Itachi announced, initiating a conversation. "Did you encounter any problems?" "Not at all," Naruto said without looking at him. "Although I must say that the old one-eyed man's contacts are quite incredible." "Was the contact's identity revealed?" "Only I could know," Naruto replied. "He chose to reveal himself to me. To be honest, I didn't expect it." Itachi knew that Naruto wouldn't say more. They had already talked much more than they had in the previous days. So, Itachi decided to ask the uncomfortable question that would only be answered through Naruto. "How's my mother?" Naruto glanced at him casually, seemingly less concerned than he had been during the past few days. However, there was an odd satisfaction in his bright blue eyes. "Don't worry about Oka-chan, Itachi-ni," Naruto said with a hint of disdain. "She'll be better off with me than with your impotent father. And, by the way," he added as an afterthought, "tell Fugaku. I expected a bit more courage from him. Is he so afraid of me that he doesn't plan on rescuing his wife?" Itachi didn't even react to the provocation. He wasn't the kind of man who was easy to insult or provoke into a fight. He could evaluate every word from the enemy, even amidst insults or threats. Conclusions could be drawn if the mind was prepared. The first thing he reasoned was that Naruto's plan had been to lure Fugaku into a duel after eliminating Sasuke. But he hadn't succeeded, and at this rate, Itachi would have to do the job to protect the village himself. How could he prevent Naruto from taking advantage of the clan's extermination to finish off Sasuke as well? It was clear that Namikaze was not easy to handle. Itachi realized that, to save his brother, he not only had to complete Dansu's mission but also defeat Naruto in one stroke. "And by the way," Naruto grinned playfully, "do you even know who Dansu is making deals with? He'll probably have a big impact on Konoha in the future." Hey. He returned tired. The tension of sharing a mission with Itachi Uchiha wasn't recommendable, even for eating. But it didn't matter because the wheel of destruction was already turning, and everyone would eventually fall. Naruto left his gear by the door, his backpack, ninjato, kunai, and other equipment. His home was probably messy and completely dark. That had been his life for a while. But no. A warm light, some landscape and flower paintings hanging on the walls. A centerpiece adorning the dining room's heart. New furniture here, flowers there. The entire house bore the unmistakable signature of a woman. It had light, it had life. Naruto hadn't smiled much in recent times, but this spectacle brought a relaxed grin to his face. He saw both Mikoto and Kushina cooking and talking. He had never noticed how well they got along until he separated Mikoto from her clan. Without a doubt, his mother had a sisterly relationship with the Uchiha woman. This made Naruto think even more about the decisions he was making lately. He thought about it day after day, over and over. But that feeling of guilt didn't surface in his soul. That inner voice that should have said don't do it, forgive, start your life anew never emerged. Mikoto-chan had become very different since living with Naruto. He saw it in the small details, The tranquility in her eyes, the sincerity in her voice. She didn't hide her smile, didn't lower her head. She took it upon herself to keep the house tidy, to cook, and keep everything in order. Now, they were training partners, too, which lifted Mikoto's spirits as she seemed to adore the ninja life. Sochi. Kushina smiled as she noticed him entering. You arrived just in time for dinner. Is there a better time to arrive? Naruto responded pleasantly. Besides, it looks like I've won some contest. After all, dining with two beautiful women isn't something everyone gets to do. GGG. Listen to him, Kushina, Mikoto prepared to laugh. Now he's being gallant, probably because you're here to protect him, GGG. Just in case I want to do something to him. They all smiled, the words were meant to be friendly. They all felt that way, and for a couple of hours, they forgot about the endless problems waiting outside that house. Naruto told them about his missions, not the most recent one, which would have upset them quite a bit, but some of the previous missions that had nothing to do with them and were worth sharing. They talked about training, everyday matters, and the strange love-friendship wild bickering relationship that kept Tsunade and Jiraiya bound by an imaginary cord. I've already told Uro-Sennin that to be with that woman, he has to commit fully. Naruto joked about what Kushina was saying. That she's special to him, and if he doesn't give up his research, he'll never have her. The pervert is going to get himself killed one of these days if he keeps peeping at the hot springs, Kushina laughed. At least I'm sure he doesn't do it when I'm there, or your father would kill him. They laughed again, just when Mikoto suggested that from now on, she would make sure to go to the hot springs whenever Kushina was there. And they kept talking. Lunch was delicious, and Naruto was surprised that they had been waiting for him. But Mikoto warned him that Jiraiya had sensed his return to the village early. She mentioned it as he was being chased by 100 women. More laughter, and everything was pleasant. It was the power of habit that made them accustomed to this unusual situation. Some time later, Kushina decided to return to her house. Perhaps she felt much more at ease than ever after seeing Naruto in good health. After witnessing how Mikoto seemed to rejuvenate away from her family. After seeing that two of the most important people in her life were helping each other with their respective challenges. The redhead left, announcing that next time they would have dinner at her place, with Minato and perhaps the loyal Sannin present. Mikoto agreed without a problem, but Naruto, still smiling, didn't respond. It seemed that the idea of sharing the same space with his father was impossible for the young Namikaze. When they closed the door to his house, Mikoto couldn't help but wonder what Kushina might be thinking as she walked through Konoha. Naruto. Will you continue to be at odds with your father? Mikoto asked. Mikoto-san, the blonde smiled weakly, there are many things in life that can be lost. But some things that are taken from us. They end up marking the path for everything else. Never forget who you really are, was her response after a few seconds of uncomfortable silence. Or nothing you do will make sense in the end. The young man simply nodded, accepting her wisdom. Afterward, they distanced themselves from each other. While Mikoto cleaned and organized parts of the house, Naruto went to his private room to meditate. In the silence of his own soul, he asked himself the same questions day after day. He could see the end of the road and felt no fear or shame. When he spoke with Itachi the previous night, he never expected to find the information he did. Not only the Uchiha, Dansu, the Hokage, and the two Sannin who remained loyal to the village were involved. Now, Orochimaru had joined the game, a ruthless individual with ambitions that were, at a minimum, the most twisted imaginable. Dansu making secret pacts with that snake was like sticking his head into the mouth of a hungry beast. Too much risk, with great possibilities of fresh corpses. Hours later, it was getting dark in the village. Naruto left the house to heat some water by lighting the wood under the water heater. Throughout that evening and night, he analyzed every word of his conversation with Itachi. The dilemma that Sasuke's older brother was in was almost like a bad joke. The woman didn't enter the bathroom, but despite all her senses telling her to leave and close the door, she still kept looking. He had grown in the last year, the inhuman training had developed his muscle mass. He had scars that added character to his physique, making it far from undesirable. He was a young man of nearly 19, but his appearance, his personality, the pain reflected in his furious blue eyes. Mikoto didn't realize it, but she kept watching him bathe, taking the risk that Naruto would discover her spying. Just a little more, Naruto whispered, and Mikoto's blood ran cold because she thought he had caught her. Just a little. So I can return too. The last words were almost drowned out, which is why Mikoto didn't hear them. She had always had the feeling ever since she came to live with Naruto that she shouldn't be in that place, but for some reason, it was necessary for her to be there. She watched him finish washing and get into the tub full of water to relax. The hallway was dark, and you couldn't see well from the inside to the outside, but Mikoto decided to leave because she knew Naruto could sense the chakra as soon as he relaxed. She had many questions, and whatever was happening was endangering the lives of everyone around her. A few days later, there was another step on this strange path. Mikoto and Naruto trained separately after running several kilometers. The woman started practicing kinjutsu, while the young man, a few meters away, used his clones for combat. They usually glanced at each other out of the corner of their eyes without letting the other know. She looked very different when she trained. Her outfit outlined the curves of her body in a captivating way. The grace of her movements was harmonious. Mikoto wasn't just any woman, she had that kind of duality that Naruto admired in the strongest kunoichi. She could be a lady, gentle, delicate, and an excellent homemaker. But there was another Mikoto Uchiha. Naruto had encouraged and awakened her. A warrior. Dangerous, skilled, intelligent, precise. With enough courage to do whatever she felt if necessary. They suddenly locked eyes when both were panting from their training, and they only paused for a few seconds. Naruto had a strong, cold look, shaped by the constant pain he had endured recently. But there were Mikoto's eyes, unwavering, not turning away, not giving up. She was proud too, and she had pain inside her, but unlike Naruto, she had learned to live with it. Would you? He tried to ask from a distance, inviting her to spar. I'd love to, she smiled softly, but there was fierceness in her gaze, although I can't guarantee you'll stay uninjured. An hour of intense combat. She indeed hid a keen sense of battle in that delightful body. It had been challenging to disarm her, and even harder to take away her throwing weapons. In the end, they resorted to taijutsu, and Mikoto managed to bring him down with a precise judo move. Naruto ended up on the ground, and she straddled him at pelvis level, placing a stolen kunai right on his neck. Wow, Naruto whispered, releasing a smile, it's the first time I'm not upset about losing. She smiled, quite exhausted, in a dominant and definitive position over Naruto. Even by reflex, she used her hips to settle herself more firmly. Apart from the fight, the position seemed very intimate for two fighters. It took them a few seconds to realize what was happening. Naruto couldn't prevent certain areas of his body from reacting to her warmth. She wanted to smile to ease the tension, but her heart was racing, perhaps due to the adrenaline of the fight, perhaps because of the intimate situation that had arisen when they stopped fighting. She wanted to move, to get away, but he sat up, getting even closer. They locked eyes, she deactivated the Sharingan, her face appeared cold and serious, but inside, she was paralyzed. Naruto placed a hand at the base of her back and used the other to stroke her dark hair. There was something between them. But defining it was a dangerous matter. You're beautiful, he said with a deep voice. It's not true, Mikoto responded, feeling uneasy. We shouldn't be doing this. She quickly and abruptly got up, preventing him from doing anything. She immediately focused on finding her weapons and chose to ignore him. Naruto retracted his knees, sat down, and didn't understand what was happening. What had he done? Why? How could he even attempt? What had he tried to do, after all? He was losing control, his center, his direction. She was light, a kind of light so strange that it distracted him. I'm sorry, Naruto said, standing up and getting distracted as he helped pick up the weapons. Maybe I'm feeling confused. You should find a girl to solve your confusion, Mikoto added. I'm not a toy. Naruto moved slowly but confidently, standing in front of her and gently holding her face, forcing her to look at him. She seemed very beautiful to him, with a captivating mix of maturity and youthful sensuality. She was just right. I once warned you that I would never hurt you. Remember? She nodded, but she looked tense. I'm sorry for acting foolishly, but don't think I lied. You're a beautiful woman. I've always heard the same, Mikoto whispered. That I'm beautiful, perfect, unique. But my father forced me to marry a man who has never loved me. I had to give up my career to be a mother. I have 2 children who ignore or despise me because I refuse to see life as a matter of foolish pride. Naruto wanted to smile, but he knew it would seem like he was mocking her, which was the last thing he felt. Why do all the men in the world think that women are objects? The question came so quickly that it didn't allow Mikoto to reason about her own words. Looking at the young man she had been spending time with, she realized he represented the opposite of the concept she had just expressed. Naruto had dedicated all his time, potential, tears, and anger to honoring the memory of a woman. He had fought against everyone, risking his life and future just to alleviate the pain left by Sakura Haruno. "I'm sorry," Mikoto said, lowering her gaze in embarrassment. A woman should never reveal the sorrows of her heart or judge someone who is breaking away from the general foolishness that surrounds us. Both had silently put away their weapons, and walking side by side, they left the training field. For some reason, Mikoto's embarrassment at revealing her feelings about her situation in general was tempered by the relief of having said it. She told him she was upset with her life. She told him. And he had accepted it without questioning. "You're resilient," Naruto noted. "You didn't give up your freedom or your heart out of fear. You endured it for the sake of everyone. And even when they spit in your face, you pretend to be weak instead of crushing them all. When you could lead your clan much better than your husband." "That's not possible," she stammered in surprise. "Even if I trained and became the strongest. That's not possible. That's not likely. Would be a better way to put it," thought the young Namikaze as he walked alongside her in silence. Slash. As time passed, Fugaku Uchiha and the clan heads had been preparing every detail of their revolution. As members of Konoha's military police, they had access to all the key points of the internal structure. Through carefully calculated steps, they studied every leader or significant ninja who could oppose them. The Hokage's guard, the shinobi who would remain loyal to the death. How to approach the Sannin or how to keep them out of the way so they wouldn't intervene in time. There was a strategy for everyone. How to isolate Minato from his guards, how to neutralize the Jinchuriki and send them both to hell. Tsunade and Jiraiya had to be out of the village when the attack began. A certain part of the Uchiha forces was tasked with blocking the Anbu headquarters. Others were assigned to cut off any external communication that could attract reinforcements. Fugaku had made agreements with certain foreign mercenary groups. They would receive a signal and arrive in Konoha the day after the revolution to end the conflict. And to support the new Hokage. Everything was ready, and with Itachi's evolved Sharingan, they had an advantage. Also, Igami, Kanako, Itsuma, and Takeda, whose levels exceeded the average jounin. They would attack at night, with the brilliant advantage of stealth. There were only two issues that Fugaku still considered as undetermined. His younger son, Sasuke, had not yet recovered from the severe beating he had received. He wouldn't be useful for the attack, if they decided to do it in a short time. Fugaku had tried to wait for him to have one more soldier on his side, but the worrying political situation in recent times made the clan leader and the elders believe that the loyalty of some sectors of the Uchiha ninja lineup was increasingly in doubt. In summary, the longer they waited without exploding, the less chance the revolution had of succeeding. The second matter that had Fugaku's full attention was Naruto Namikaze. He was not among the shinobi loyal to Minato but was affiliated with Danzo and, as per reports analyzed by Itachi, considered opposed to the Hokage. While Itachi couldn't provide too many details about Naruto's fighting style, based on the technique he displayed against Sasuke, it would be difficult to stop him. In fact, resolving the issue of Naruto was the only thing preventing the Uchiha revolution from starting. However, the solution came on a certain evening when Mikoto Uchiha showed up at the hospital to visit her son. Fugaku had forbidden her from visiting, and when she appeared a few days after Sasuke's lost battle, she was thrown out by the guards Fugaku had placed in Sasuke's room. Some time later, with things calmer, she persisted once more. But this time, when the two Uchiha clan Chunin tried to block her path, they stopped in their tracks when they saw her threatening eyes. The orbs that were always black and warm in Mrs. Uchiha mutated into the blood-red Sharingan. They were afraid of her, or at least they respected her. They didn't dare to block her access despite Fugaku's orders. The next day, Fugaku learned about what had happened. Sasuke had spoken to his mother, but despite the woman's attempts to rekindle a normal relationship with her younger son, Sasuke's resentment and humiliation for being saved by her wouldn't allow him to forgive her. Sasuke could barely walk, had to stay in the hospital due to his casted leg, and suffered the Uchiha's custody that made him appear utterly useless. Fugaku had a revelation. The best way to deal with Naruto Namikaze was to stab him in the back. Itachi had once mentioned that attacking Minato's son head-on was a bad idea. Fugaku believed this even more after Naruto's brutal victory over Sasuke. If he unleashed that power against the Uchiha revolution, it would likely tip the balance in Minato's favor. Therefore, eliminating him when his guard was down became a top priority. He had to die to guarantee the success of the attack. But who could get close enough? Mikoto entered the leader's office with delicate steps. Fugaku could barely recognize her, even though her appearance hadn't changed much since she lived in the Uchiha mansions. There was something about her demeanor, the way she looked at him. She no longer lowered her gaze, she no longer hid her eyes in neutrality. Has he dishonored you? Her husband asked curtly. Do you care about my honor now? Mikoto responded with equal gruffness. You look different, Fugaku noted unenthusiastically. Did you expect me to rescue you? No, in fact, that's why I've been training. Regaining my level. Since I no longer belong to the Uchiha clan, as your leader expelled me for saving my son, I had to do something with my new life. If Mikoto wished to return to her mansion, she concealed it very well. Fugaku expected to see more willingness or perhaps desperation. But Mikoto was calm, hardened by her renewed training. This could be both a good thing and a bad thing. I have a proposal for you, Fugaku said, negotiating with his wife as if she were a stranger. Do you want to return to the clan? Under what concept would I want to return to this hell? Hell? Fugaku thought, as he had never considered his wife's life as something bad. Is it bothersome to be the leader of the clan's wife? Mikoto didn't respond, she only observed her husband's office with some curiosity. It was quite disheveled and dirty since she no longer resided in that place. She had noticed that the entire house where her core family lived had identical problems. However, neither her children, her husband, nor anyone in that family seemed to need her. And even though the physical evidence was right in front of her eyes, they wouldn't admit it. Well, Mikoto said, unable to hide her frustration, for a moment, I thought that when you asked to speak to me, it was for, I don't know, to show that all these years of marriage meant something more than just procreating warriors. The years we spent together were because the previous leaders deemed it best for the family. You agreed to marry me, even though you didn't want to. And you did it because it was best for everyone. Now the clan needs both of us again. Will you do what's best for our family? And what is best for our family now? Mikoto inquired. You've been training to become a kunoichi again, Fugaku defined, trying to involve her. But do you have the courage to carry out the missions they assign you? Many people grow soft with age. Are you proposing a deal? Or a mission? That's what I mean, nodded the man. You will return to this family, be reinstated as an active kunoichi, live with me or in another part of the mansion, and have a seat with a voice and vote on the Uchiha clan council. Mikoto fell silent. Her husband was offering her a return to the family, freedom, a chance to become a ninja again, and a seat on the Uchiha clan council where decisions were made and there was no turning back. All of this he offered. For what reason? A war is about to break out in Konoha, Fugaku announced, not planning to reveal more than necessary. And for the sake of the Uchiha clan. You have to assassinate a target. Assassinate a target, the woman repeated in her mind without any visible reaction. For the sake of the clan, for our survival and that of Konoha, Fugaku concluded, playing his ultimate card. Your mission is to assassinate Naruto Namikaze. End of part -2.